So about a month and a half back, I covered the top 10 worst and top 10 best adaptations in the Threshold Mortal Kombat universe. Now we move on to the next live-action MK universe, Legacy. Oh lord. Hello my fellow oddities and welcome to the top 10 worst Legacy Mortal Kombat adaptations. The Legacy timeline consists of the 2 seasons of Mortal Kombat Legacy, a live-action web series released from 2010 to 2013. I have gone through every character adapted in these 2 seasons and given them a weighted average score 0 to 100 based on how accurate they are to the source material. Today I will be covering the bottom 10 and this Saturday I will be covering the top 10. This idea was inspired by Fantagonistic's MCU Worst Adapted Heroes video and that series they have on their channel, which you can check out for yourself in the top right hand corner. And I'll also be using their same criteria, but instead of the 3 C's, it'll be the 3 K's. Costume, the character's overall look. Points will be taken off for removing or changing aspects of the outfit itself, or physical characteristics such as race, muscularity, or hair. This one is weighted much less than the other 2 just because I didn't want adaptations that only resemble the character in appearance to get too high of a score. Character, the personal aspects of the character and who they are. Points are taken off for changes in personality and missing or altered movesets and relationships. And finally, continuity, the what, where, and why of the character. Points are taken off for alterations to backstory, major events, and their place in the overall world. And one more thing, this is not as much a critique as it is a fun breakdown. This is not saying that these characters are bad, I mean, they are, but that's not the point of the video. The point is to explain how they are inaccurate adaptations. So let's dive right into the top 10 worst adapted Legacy Mortal Kombat characters. Starting at number 10, who got a score of 55.8, an F. For reference, the bottom spot in the Threshold video had a 74.4, which is a C. Yeah, we're covering some butcherings today. I have Baraka, appearing very briefly in one episode of Season 1. In the games, Baraka is the general of the Tarkatans, a race of outworlders that are pretty much all enslaved as warriors under Shao Kahn. He has massive, razor-sharp teeth and giant blades that come out of his arms. He usually wears a white and red gi and is very loyal to the Emperor. Dear God. What is that? For whatever reason, they made Baraka look like some Lord of the Rings orc-looking thing with burnt skin and gray hair. He completely lacks the exaggerated sharp teeth in favor of teeth you can see whenever you want by going to a Tesco in the UK. And the armor is just nothing like anything Baraka has ever worn, ever. Hell, his blades don't even look like they come out of his skin. Probably because they didn't want to bother with prosthetics, so now they just look like they're a part of his arm gauntlets. Thankfully, he has them at all, and does kill a few dudes with them. Doesn't do any of his iconic moves like the chop chop spin or blade spark, but it's not a huge deal. And yeah, he shows up for the invasion of Outworld on Edenia, which I do believe Baraka was around for, so that's fine, but then he never shows up again and has no lines of dialogue, so we don't have much else to go off of other than his horrendous design. At least Annihilation Baraka looked like the character, and fought someone noteworthy even if he dies immediately. Giving him the benefit of the doubt though, Baraka in the games has never been a substantial character, and this version of him does fit the same general role of jobber. But he never actually loses in the show. Does that make him more or less accurate? I don't know. Next at number 9, with a 51.2, we have Shao Kahn, appearing in only 2 episodes of Legacy Season 1. Shao Kahn in the games is the tyrannical emperor of Outworld who stole the realm after poisoning his master and former ruler, the Dragon King Onaga, and now sets out to conquer all the realms with a particular lust for Earth. However, he is constantly thwarted by Liu Kang after 2 tournaments and an invasion. He wears a gladiator-like skimpy attire to show off his hulking physique and height, and wears the iconic samurai helmet fused with a skull mask. He uses weapons such as a giant wrath hammer, a large spear, and he has mastery of martial arts and sorcery. He has 2 daughters in Katana and Melina, a very non-consensual marriage with Sindel, and he hates the Earth Warriors, specifically Liu Kang and Raiden. Legacy Shao Kahn looks like this. Yeah, not only does he have a normal human face, which is just not right, but this outfit is horrifically generic and boring. None of the original Shao Kahn comes through with this design, and the actor certainly doesn't have the stature or imposing presence he should have. In fact, even Shao's personality is pretty subdued and fairly stiff, coming across as a cliche evil leader. Furthermore, he doesn't fight at all, and it's not like he doesn't get the chance, he just has his minions do everything for him. Hell, he doesn't even kill the real King Jared in this timeline. In terms of relationships, he does have his 2 daughters in Katana and Melina, and he does marry Sindel, quote unquote, only for her to escape it via drinking a death potion. None of these relationships are developed very much, but It's something. Though he has no interactions with Raiden or Liu Kang because he's completely irrelevant outside of these 2 episodes. Not that those relationships would be the same at all if they existed, but we'll get to that later. And for the most part, with the story that they are telling in these episodes about the fall of Edenia, his parts are mostly intact. He doesn't kill the real Jared, but that's the only major plot shift. Everything else is pretty accurate. However, we don't really get much insight on backstory or where this version of Shao Kahn came from and what he is, so he does lose some points for that, but I'll give the benefit of the doubt again and not completely tank his score. Overall, Legacy Shao Kahn is nothing more than a lazily put together Shao Kahn that only exists to get the same story beats the original Shao did without any of the personality or life behind the source material. At number 8 with a 49.6, I have Kano, appearing in 2 episodes of Season 1. Kano in the games is the grimy, cruel leader of the Black Dragon clan of mercenaries and criminals in Earthrealm. His gang is constantly being tracked down by the special forces, and he killed Sonya's partner, and in the first tournament he uses Sonya's want for revenge to lead her onto the nethership, taking them to the island. He usually wears black, white, and or red, has a metal eye plate with a glowing red eye, and he uses large knives, throwing them at opponents. His personality is humorous, but in a cruel manner, finding sick pleasure in the death or misfortune of his enemies. And it's also important to mention that he is Australian. Legacy Kano is Legacy Kano is the leader of the Black Dragon, did kill Sonya's partner, and he is Australian, but nearly everything else about him is just dull. He takes some pleasure in being an asshole, but is mostly all business, and it's not really convincing when he tries. He also does use a knife, but very briefly, and mostly uses guns and his fists. His outfit is a leather jacket, wow, truly revolutionary, and he doesn't get the metal eye plate until the very last seconds of the 2nd episode, but he never returned again after this, so I don't even really count it. This Kano is also working with the Lin Kuei for their cyber initiative, providing them with the technology, which is a cool bit of connectivity between these 2 very different sides of MK, but not accurate. The Lin Kuei originally are much more advanced than most think. They aren't some primitive ninja clan. Story-wise, I guess this is a fine backstory showing the rivalry between the Black Dragon and Special Forces. We don't know much about their history in the games outside of very brief mentions, and yeah, so it's not like this is super inaccurate. However, when the 2nd season rolls around for the tournament, Kano is not present, therefore he gets points deducted for that. So yeah, I get this is Kano's origin, and maybe if they actually brought him back, then we could have gotten something somewhat cool with the metal eye and maybe a more exaggerated performance. But as it stands, I kind of feel the same way as I do about Shao Kahn. Feels like this version of him is only to serve the plot, not actually adapt who he is. At number 7, with a big drop to a 38.2, we have Raiden from both seasons. Raiden in the games is the god of thunder and protector of Earthrealm. He has a staff and the ability to control lightning, and he's fought for Earth for many millennia, taking down Shinnok and leading the charge against Outworld to find a worthy champion in Mortal Kombat. His personality is fairly calm and wise, but he can be imposing and threatening when needed. He leads both the Great Kung Lao and Liu Kang to becoming Mortal Kombat champions, and he has a great deal of care for all his Earthrealm defenders, though he may not always show it. Now if we just look at Season 2 Raiden, he would probably still make the list, like at the very top, but it's not nearly as bad until you bring in Season 1 Raiden. Season 2 Raiden is like the definition of what these last few entries have been, just existing to fill the basic mold the character has in the games in order to move the plot along. He's just an exposition dump that disappears once the actual tournament begins. He also never wears the iconic hat and has a beard, which is odd for Raiden. Though I will give props where it's due, this Raiden is played by an Asian actor, which is the correct thing. He's a character based on Japanese mythology. He also briefly uses his electricity to light a campfire, but nothing other than that. He also has no relationship with Liu Kang or Kung Lao or any of the Earthrealmers beyond just being their kind of guide. Season 1 is what really tanks this version of the character though, especially in the power scaling department. Season 1 Raiden, firstly, is white, but also is captured and detained for a significant period of time by regular ass dudes. He is the god of thunder. And this isn't a Thor situation where he's stripped of his abilities. No, he just doesn't use them, and lets himself get his ass kicked several times, allowing himself to be lobotomized and injected with ketamine. Yeah, this episode is weird. And that's another thing that damages this character. A whole episode of stuff that just shouldn't, wouldn't, and it didn't happen in the games because of how laughable it is. So yeah, with Season 2 already not being great at all, Season 1 just comes in with a double tap to completely wreck Legacy Raiden's score into oblivion. And somehow we're only at number 7. At number 6, with a 35.6, we got Johnny Cage from both seasons. Now what's crazy is that in Mortal Kombat Rebirth, Johnny Cage would have been one of the most accurate characters. fighters, maybe the most accurate, but here with Legacy, he's in the top 10 least accurate, which just shows you how dog shit Rebirth is. Anyways, Johnny in the games is a charismatic but washed up movie star attempting to regain his star power by joining the Mortal Kombat tournament and proving he's a real fighter. Unbeknownst to him, he's getting caught up in a whole new world of monsters and immortals. He gets to know Liu Kang and Sonya Blade, learning to appreciate more in life than just his own personal wants and needs, and proves that he is a real warrior who can hang with the best fighters in all the realms. He has shadow abilities that strengthen his moves and allow him to throw force balls, and he wears typical martial arts gear while rocking some cool shades. Legacy Johnny Cage is a huge asshole and menace to society. Okay, he's still a movie/TV star, but boy is he a lot more than just washed. He's an alcoholic serial assaulter who will literally, as stated in the series itself, pick fights with random people and constantly get arrested. In season 1, when the producers cancel his TV deal and move forward with a different actor, he gets pissed and beats both of them up. He's such a menace to society that Shang Tsung tries to recruit him to the Outworld side. Thankfully, Johnny rejects and instead accepts Raiden's offer, but geez, can you turn this character any more edgy? In both seasons, he kinda just wears regular civilian clothes, and for some reason he's aged way up in season 2, having gray hair and a goatee, and in season 2 he definitely doesn't prove to be a worthy fighter. Hell, it doesn't even seem like he can fight. He gets bodied by everyone. He also never uses any shadow abilities. Really the only thing he has going for him is his backstory being a movie star and having a kind of humorous personality, but he never has any sort of arc or relationships with other characters. I just don't understand what the appeal is doing this to the character. Like, what Johnny Cage fan wants to see him like this and never overcome it? Anyways, yeah, horrible adaptation. At number 5, with a 28.7, I have Kung Lao from Season 2. Kung Lao in the games is a Shaolin monk and the best friend of Liu Kang and the last remaining descendant of the great Kung Lao, a legendary warrior who won the Mortal Kombat tournament for Earthrealm years ago. Kung Lao takes great pride in this part of his identity, and his whole life he is pressured to live up to that name. However, he never quite reaches those expectations, with Liu Kang taking them for himself. Lao uses a razor-sharp hat which he can manipulate to his will, and he can teleport. His personality has varied wildly over the years, from very calm and peaceful to complete and utter asshole, and then somewhere in between. Legacy Kung Lao is a Shaolin monk who was Liu Kang's best friend, and yeah, this version of Kung Lao is such a brick, dude. What do I even talk about? His hat doesn't even have a razor on it. That's like the whole point. Anyways, this Lao is a complete pacifist, a generic Shaolin monk archetype who joins the tournament and just does nothing. He's bald and wears an outfit sort of like Kung Lao in the games. His relationship with Liu Kang is completely different. We never see the bond between the two. In fact, they are only antagonistic to each other throughout the entire season, with the two facing off in the very last episode before the cliffhanger. And out of the two, Kung Lao is the only one that's ever been depicted as antagonistic or jealous or not in control of his emotions. He's the only one that's shown an ego or really any major character flaws outside of Revenant stuff, of course. But here, he's the one that's super calm and wise and goody two-shoes. Also, Kung Lao never joined the first MK tournament until MK9 retconned it, so like 90% of this character is just wrong. He's a Shaolin monk with a relationship with Liu Kang. Change this to Kai and he's just as much as he is him as he is Kung Lao. Well, Kai is black, so that'd be a little bit more problematic, but it's also Kai, so who really cares? At number 4, with a 15.6, how low are we gonna go? I have Ermac from Legacy Season 2. Ermac in the games is a red palette swap ninja created by Shao Kahn as an amalgamation of souls. He fights in the invasion of Earthrealm by Outworld and has the powers of telekinesis, teleportation, and he fires soul blasts. He doesn't really have a personality, being an amalgam, just being voices on top of voices all speaking at once, and after Shao Kahn loses to Earthrealm twice, Ermac is left to wander, being found by Kenshi, who he teaches the ways of telekinesis. Legacy Ermac is this monstrosity. His outfits, I guess it's inspired by MKX. Oh wait, it's just tattered black clothing with some tiny bits of red on it if you really squint, but by the time you see it, you'll realize it was not worth a strain on your eyes. Speaking of strain on your eyes, Ermac's face. I know Ermac, especially in recent games, has had a scary zombie face, but this isn't even that. This is like an orc or something, and it's hardly accurate to the Ermac designs we had at that time. Like, this Ermac may not seem like the worst thing ever now that there's some precedence for this type of design, but back in 2013, this had to be the most out of nowhere WTF turn for the character to take. In this timeline, Ermac is not an amalgamation of souls, but instead a demon commanded to guard Sento in a random Earthrealm cave by Shao Kahn. That is his one and only life and purpose. When Kenshi goes to this cave to try and take Sento, Ermac blinds him. Years later, at the tournament Ermac is not supposed to be at, he fights and loses to Kenshi, being killed. Hey, at least he shows off his telekinesis abilities. And tentacles. God damn it, Legacy Ermac. Let me give you some credit without ruining it. Yeah, whoever's idea it was to let this thing call itself Ermac, never cook again. At number 3, with a 14.1, we have Bi-Han Sub-Zero. Bi-Han in the games is the older, colder Sub-Zero brother, part of the Lin Kuei clan of assassins. One day on a mission to a Shaolin temple, he met with a ninja from the rival clan, the Shiryu, named Scorpion. He defeated and killed Scorpion, then went on the wacky adventure that is Sub-Zero mythologies. Afterwards, he's invited to the Mortal Kombat tournament, but with a secret mission to assassinate Shang Tsung. He is unsuccessful, however, as a resurrected Scorpion appears and kills him. He has the powers to control ice, wears a blue ninja uniform, and has a complicated relationship with his younger, more heroic brother, Kuai Liang, as their ideals usually conflict since Bi-Han is much more stoic and violent. Bi-Han in Legacy is the secret childhood friend of Hanzo Hasashi, which was forbidden as they are from different clans. When they grow up, Hanzo kills Bi-Han's brother, which results in Bi-Han setting up a peace treaty between the two clans? Huh? Quan Chi disguises himself as Bi-Han and commands the Lin Kuei to eliminate the Shiryu, including Hanzo, and when Bi-Han learns of this, he is horrified and almost kills his own clan members, but a random old man appears and shows him the truth. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know what happened in this scene. He gets invited to the Mortal Kombat tournament and is killed by Scorpion with his own fatality. Okay, so he does have the ice powers and he is part of the Lin Kuei, but not only does he look like this, God, this video could be a FNAF Let's Play with all the horrific jump scares, I apologize. But his whole personality is completely ass backwards with his brother. It's like they mixed up their names, and don't worry, I'll get into Kuai Liang, but Bi-Han is completely and utterly mischaracterized here. Firstly, being childhood friends with Hanzo is super dumb and I hate it, and secondly, Bi-Han would never be this peaceful, reasonable, and make a peace treaty with the Shiryu. I know my second most popular video is me defending Bi-Han from his reputation as cold-blooded, heartless killer, but you still got a problem with me when you go the opposite way too. This is Kuai Liang, not Bi-Han. Hell, it's not even MK2 era Kuai Liang. This is how he'd act in like Deception or MKX. He's also the leader of the Lin Kuei here. Ugh, this is a complete mess. Nearly nothing is right about this character. At number 2, yes, there are somehow 2 characters worse than that. With an 8.3, we got Liu Kang, who I've really been trying to refrain from talking about all video because there's a lot to cover. Liu Kang in the games is the Shaolin monk who rises to the occasion and wins the Mortal Kombat tournaments and defeats both Shao Kahn and Shinnok in their invasions. He's a master martial artist who has also mastered his inner chi, allowing him to throw fireballs. His look is very Bruce Lee inspired, having long black hair, black pants, but with a red sash and headband to make him pop more. His personality is pretty subdued, but he can have his moments of heart and humor. Liu Kang in Legacy is an evil, serial killer maniac who works for Outworld to destroy Earth. Yeah, basically the opposite of who the character is supposed to be. People at the time thought Liu Kang was boring because he's a good guy who's unequivocally good, and so they just made a complete U-turn instead of just giving him flaws, and now he's just a complete psychopath. But how did this happen? Well, those 8 points that I gave him are mostly from the fact that he was a Shaolin monk, and he also wears red and is Asian. But he leaves the Shaolin to marry this girl, but she's murdered by some criminals, and that makes him go crazy and start killing people as an assassin for hire. He also hates Kung Lao for being understandably upset and telling him to get the fuck away from him after he murdered the people that killed his girlfriend. Remember that these are pacifist Shaolin monks. And so Liu Kang joins Outworld. He also wears a leather jacket with a red shirt underneath. Well, I can't deny that he's exactly like the games now. I mean, a red shirt? And he does throw fireballs, though in the games that fire comes from his inner warmth and control of his emotions, so I don't know how he has them here. But yeah, he's not Earthrealm's champion in the slightest. He doesn't even fight for Earth, and none of the heart and soul of the character is there. That all goes without saying. But we have one more character who, via what's the opposite of a miracle, has managed to be worse. And that's number 1 with a 7.9, Kuai Liang Sub-Zero. Kuai Liang in the games is the younger Sub-Zero who was sent into the second tournament to continue his brother's mission of killing Shang Tsung after his death. At first he wears the same uniform as his bro, but eventually takes the mask off after he leaves the Lin Kuei because of the Cyber Initiative. Just like Bi-Han, he's a cryomancer, but unlike him, he's much more personable and just good. Throughout the series, he shows that the harsh training of the Lin Kuei did not overtake him the way that they did his brother. Kuai Liang in Legacy is Bi-Han's brother. He's part of the Lin Kuei. and everything else is very, very different. He was a little kid when Bi-Han and Hanzo were friends, and he always felt left out and ignored by his brother. So when he grows up, this manifests into a hatred of the Shirai Ryu, and at every opportunity, he tries to deepen the rift between the two clans. This culminates in him kidnapping Hanzo's son and attempting to attack Hanzo himself, resulting in him being killed. He seemingly has no ice powers and instead uses a sword. So, let's run this down. Look is just a regular Lin Kuei outfit, no mask or anything. Personality, completely backwards and miserable. Moveset, no ice powers. Relationships, other than him just being Bi-Han's brother, their relationship is completely different and he has beef with Scorpion, which he does not usually have in the games. Storyline, he tries to attack Scorpion and immediately dies. What do I even say? They took a hot, and considering the lack of cryomancy, I do mean hot, steamy dump on the character of Kuai Liang. Honestly, I know they kind of switched their personalities, but this would even be a horrible adaptation of Bi-Han. The closest this is to an actual MK character is Frost. How do you mess up that bad? But anyways, remember that this Saturday I'll be covering the top 10 best adaptations from Legacy, so be tuned in for that. And do you agree or disagree with my placements? Let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe and leave a like if you want, and that's wraps on this one, my fellow oddities. I'll see you next time.